name is Dr. Esther Trufant, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate an alternative method to preparing sodium carbonate from baking soda. For this experiment, we're going to use a scale, and I already turned on my scale, and I'm going to use some baking soda. And if you're wondering, well, Dr. Trufant, why do you have so much baking soda in your house? If you Google 10 things that you can use baking soda for, you will find that in order to make this experiment a success, I'm going to use the following items. I'm going to use some parchment paper because I want to have an easy, convenient, no-mess way of removing the baking soda from a baking sheet. I'm going to use a plastic container that I can fill up with baking soda and get the right amount. And I'm also going to use a tray that I'm going to just quickly slide into the toaster oven at the preset temperature. So now that I have all my supplies, I need to get ready. So I'm going to take my plastic lunchbox and I'm going to tear, now that it's there, I'm going to measure out about 280-290 grams of baking soda. And that is more than enough. In this particular case, I have a little over 300 grams. Ideally, you would do this experiment with about 280 to 300 grams. So mine has 318.38 grams of baking soda. So I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to take some of the parchment paper. I tear off a piece, and I'm going to put this on my baking sheet. And I'm just going to fold it lightly so that it fits neatly inside the sheet so I can easily move it in and out of the tray. Does it matter what size tray you use? No, not at all. If you have a larger tray, feel free to use that. If you don't have a toaster oven, feel free to use a regular oven. If you don't have an oven, just put your baking soda into a pan and then put it on the stovetop. All right, now that I have my baking soda measured out, I'm going to make sure that it goes on top of the parchment paper. Have it dry. I still have 0.2 grams of baking soda stuck on the surface of the container. It really isn't that much when you consider that I used over 318 grams, only 0.2 grams to be lost. That is acceptable. So at this point, I can just move the baking soda a little bit apart. Once it's ready, I'm going to pop it into the toaster oven at 350 degrees for about 30 minutes. And then I'm going to come back and we're going to check on the result. It's been about 30 minutes since I put my baking soda into the toaster oven, and I let it sit there after it heated up to 350 degrees for 30 minutes. After the 30 minutes elapsed, I pulled it out, and now it's resting and cooling slowly. Because I used parchment paper, I can easily lift it out because the parchment paper cools off fairly rapidly. If you don't have parchment paper or you decide not to use it, you just need to wait until the tray is cold and it lets you fill up the baking soda easily. So it's warm. It's pretty warm. I'm going to test out next what the combined mass of my batter is, and I'm going to see if it needs to go back into the oven for additional time. Remember, with about 318 grams, the amount that I have here, we're looking for about 180 to 190 grams of sodium carbonate. So let's see how close we are. I'm going to put my little plastic container here. I'm going to tear it so that it shows all zeros. And then I'm going to lift out my parchment paper gently so I don't accidentally spill my powder. And then I'm going to slowly pour it over. Notice with the parchment paper, it's fairly easy to transfer things. All right, so this experiment was at 350 degrees for 30 minutes, and the result is 237 grams of powder, which means it did not go to completion yet. The next thing to do is put it back on the parchment paper, stick it in the toaster oven for an extra 30 minutes, and observe the outcome. If it doesn't go in the desired range even after another 30 minutes, then there are two additional solutions that we could try. Either keep the temperature the same and increase the length, so maybe up to an hour or more, just keep track of the weight. And the other method would be hike up the temperature. So instead of 350, use 370, 380, up to 400 degrees. You can exceed that, but before I would exceed the 400 degrees, I would certainly Google what is the decomposition temperature of sodium carbonate, because I want to decompose my baking soda, but I want to make sure that my sodium carbonate does not decompose in the process.